Welcome back to Love and Other Survival Skills. I'm Dr. Scott Mills, and I am so glad you're here. I want to talk today a little bit about the ways in which we get trapped in models of business that basically steal our souls. And this may seem like a strong thing to say, but I've been in this business for many, many years, and I've seen it over and over again. And in fact, I've spent a lot of money and energy on business coaching over the years, courses from the big names, smaller practitioners, private meetings, people who came highly recommended. And almost every time there was a moment, usually pretty early, where I could feel that what was being handed to me was built for someone else. A sequence I couldn't hold, a system that assumed a kind of motivation I don't have. And when I said that, the answer was always some version of the same thing: more discipline, more accountability. You're making this too complicated. You're resistant. It was like I went to a dance school and they gave me two left shoes, tied my feet together, and told me to dance to rhythms that don't speak to my body. And when I couldn't, they told me I wasn't trying hard enough. Ironically, my business grew anyway, in spite of everything I was told. And they would scratch their heads, and I would go quietly back to doing things the way that actually worked for me. Maybe you know this feeling. I'm not talking about laziness. I'm not talking about fear of success or limiting beliefs or any of the other things that the industry will tell you are standing between you and the business you want. I'm talking about the very real experience of trying to use tools that were built for a different kind of mind and being told when they don't work that you're the problem. That's where this episode starts, and it's also where it will end up. Because the question underneath all of this is not how do I make myself fit the tools? It's what would tools actually built for me look like? Today, I want to walk through 7 places where the business world gets it fundamentally wrong. Not just tactically wrong, but wrong at the level of what a human being actually is and how life actually works. And for each one, I want to show you what the honest version looks like. Not a better technique, a different premise. We're going to talk about sufficiency and greed. And we're going to talk about what purpose actually is when you strip the Santa Claus fantasy off of it. About why your brand is a dead thing the moment you perform it. And how finding your clients has nothing to do with hunting a niche and everything to do with knowing where your kin live. About what marketing looks like when it's honest education instead of a conversion operation, about what a sales conversation looks like when both people get to keep their dignity, and about what it means when the model doesn't fit you. And it isn't your fault. I'm going to be teaching this in a class called Doing Business in the Forest of Humans this summer, 6 weeks, 15 people. We start July 7th. By the end of this episode, you'll know whether it's a fit for you, and you can get more information at my website or in the show notes if that's interesting to you. But for today, I want to give you the information so that you can be empowered to make the choices in your own business to do things that feel better to you, that align more with your life, with the lives of your clients, and with the life of our planet. So let's jump in. I'm going to call these shifts because my hope is that you shift from one to the other. So our first shift is going to be from what I think about as cancerous greed to sufficiency. Now, we all know the personal development world has one move on money. One. You don't have enough. And because you don't have enough, you need more. More revenue, more followers, more reach, the 6-figure business, then the 7-figure business, then the 8. The target moves the moment you reach it. That is not an accident. That is the design. The word they use for it is abundance. Abundance. Notice that word next time you hear it, because abundance in this context doesn't mean there is enough for everyone. It means more for me. It's the hungry ghost, the figure from Buddhist tradition, with a mouth the size of a pinhole and a stomach the size of the universe. It can never be full. The whole industry depends on your never arriving. Everything you've been told up to now is designed to locate the source of enoughness outside of you, in a number, in a title, in a revenue milestone. So you keep reaching for it. You keep buying the next program because if it's not coming from inside of you, it has to come from somewhere. I want to offer a different question. Not how much can I accumulate, but what do I actually need, honestly, when no one is watching and I'm not comparing myself to anyone? I use a simple exercise for this. I ask people to imagine they have a year to live. Write two lists. The first list is what most people write, the bucket list, the letter to Santa, travel, experiences, things they've always wanted to do. Absolutely nothing wrong with any of it. I wouldn't mind doing a lot of it myself. Neither would you probably. But then I ask them to imagine they have a week to live, and that list looks completely different. Friends near, presents, stories, laughter, releasing what was never really theirs to carry in the first place. That's what real wealth turns out to be when there's no time left for the lie. And that second list, it's not something you have to build. It's not waiting on the other side of a revenue goal. It's already available to you in the relationships you already have, in the life you're already living right now. That's the communal table. Everyone gets served before anyone goes back for seconds. And there's enough. There has always been enough. Sufficiency is not settling. It's the in-breath you haven't had because you've been running so hard towards a finish line that keeps moving. It's the ground you build from. And it changes everything about why you're building a business and what you're building it for. The second shift is from individual purpose to communal purpose. The personal development world turned purpose into a possession. Find your why. Own your legacy, your North Star, live your truth. The structure is always the same. Purpose originates inside you, belongs to you alone, and radiates outward to a world waiting to receive it. You write the list, you state the vision, the universe delivers. It's Santa Claus with a vision board. And I get the appeal. I really do, especially for people who spent years being told their particular way of seeing the world was wrong. The idea that your purpose is yours, that it belongs to you, that no one can take it, feels like liberation. But then you try to build a business on it, and you sit alone trying to excavate something from inside yourself that's supposed to be unique, fully formed, and permanently true. And it never quite arrives. Or it arrives and then shifts, or it arrives and it doesn't connect to anything real in the world because you found it in isolation. Trying to find your purpose disconnected from community is like doing tree pose on a boat that isn't anchored. You can hold the pose for a minute, but you're not standing on anything real and you're bound to fall over. Purpose, when done right, is communal first. Not because other people should decide who you are, they shouldn't, but because purpose only becomes real in relationship to what actually needs doing. Think about a chorus. Every voice is different. Every part is essential. The music doesn't come from any single voice singing alone in a room. It comes from the relationship of the parts to each other. Your purpose is your voice in that chorus. It's not diminished by being part of something larger. It's completed by it. With 8 billion people on this planet, how unique could our purposes possibly be? At the base of almost every genuine purpose, when you strip away the Santa fantasy, when you stop performing ambition for an audience, there's something very simple: communal health, communal well being, a desire for the people around you to be less alone, less hurt, more able to live. That's not small, that's the whole thing. When you understand purpose this way, something shifts. You stop asking, what is my unique genius that the world needs? You start asking, instead, what does this particular community need that I'm actually equipped to give because I've lived close enough to their experience to understand it from the inside? Purpose becomes co-regulation with life itself, not fighting it, not performing it, moving with what actually is being asked of you by the world you're already in. That's a much more useful place to build from. Shift 3, branding as performance, moving into honest being. Nobody in the marketing world will say this out loud, so I'm going to. The version of you that you're performing no longer exists. Breathe that in for a moment. The version of you that you're performing no longer exists. Branding, as the industry teaches it, goes like this. You identify your audience, you study their pain, you craft a voice and a look and a set of talking points that speaks directly to that pain, and then you freeze it. You turn it into a brand. You perform it consistently across every platform, every email, every piece of content, because consistency, they tell you, is what builds trust. But humans aren't consistent. Humans grow, humans change. Humans wake up one morning and see something they didn't see before. The person you were when you built the brand is already gone, and the performance you're maintaining is a photograph of someone who no longer exists. Nobody, and I do mean nobody, trusts a dead moment. People feel it. The same way you feel it when you get an email that's clearly written to sound personal but was sent to 40,000 people. Something goes slightly cold. You can't always name it, but something in you knows. The guru model is this problem taking to its logical conclusion. The guru can't be wrong, can't not know, can't evolve in public, because the brand was built on the performance of certainty. And so the guru stops growing. The followers are left holding a picture of someone who stopped being real a long time ago, and they're not allowed to say so. Performed vulnerability is the same thing in a softer package. You share the carefully chosen struggle, the comeback story, the moment of doubt that you already know the answer to. It's designed to look like trust, but you're manufacturing trust, which is the opposite of earning it. The honest version is simpler and harder than anything the branding world teaches. I like to think about this as the gardener model, not the guru model. The gardener doesn't perform expertise. The gardener shows up, gets dirty, makes mistakes and adjusts, is clearly in relationship with the thing they're tending or the people they're tending. You can see the care. You can't fake care over time. What you choose to show people is not a performance. It's what's actually true about you, made visible. It can change because you change. It doesn't have to be consistent across time because you're not consistent across time. You're a human being in motion. When that's your brand, something interesting happens. Some people will see you and move on, and that's exactly right. They were never your people. Most will find their way to you the way bees find flour, not because you engineered it, but because you smell like what they're looking for. And some will connect so completely that your mere existence gives them permission to belong. They are not the only one. That's what no amount of performed authenticity can touch. Shift 4, niching as hunting, moving into finding your kin. The word the marketing world uses for finding your clients is targeting. Sit with that for a moment. Targeting. You are a hunter. Your potential clients are prey. You identify the watering hole where they gather, you study their patterns, and you position yourself to intercept them. Everything that follows from that word is built on the same logic. the ideal client avatar, a demographic profile of the person you're after, the pain point, the wound you're going to press on to get them moving, the funnel, the sequence designed to move them from stranger to buyer with as little friction as possible, with absolutely no relationship in any of this, only acquisition. I have a friend who spent months building a sales funnel for a business that doesn't have a single client yet. She's building the infrastructure for a model of business she will never actually be. And I've tried gently to say, you're spending your energy getting ready for a hunt you don't want to go on. She keeps building the funnel. It's not an uncommon story. The tools are seductive because they look like progress. You're doing something. You're building something. And the whole time, the actual people, the ones who would genuinely benefit from your work, who would genuinely want to be in relationship with you, they're not in the funnel. They're somewhere else entirely, in communities you actually belong to, waiting for you to show up as yourself. A niche is not a market segment. It's the villages in the forest where your kin live. Start with this question. Whose experience do you understand from the inside? Not because you've studied it, not because you identified it as an underserved market, but because you've lived it. Where does your life meet the lives of the people you can genuinely serve? That's your community. That's where your work belongs. There's a reason there are no surf shops in the desert. Not that desert people are wrong, it's that the desert isn't their home. You belong where you already are. And you probably know more about where that is than any avatar worksheet will ever tell you. This is an embodied question more than a strategic one. You can feel your kin. You know when you're in a room with people whose experience you share. The conversation moves differently. Trust comes faster. Things don't need to be explained from the beginning. That feeling is information. It's telling you where you belong. To help someone at that level, at the level that actually changes something, not a surface level, not a generic framework dropped on top of their life, in order to do that, you actually have to see them. And you can only see people you've in some genuine sense been connected to. That takes relationship. That takes time. It can't be manufactured in a funnel. When you stop trying to intercept strangers and start showing up in communities where you actually belong, something shifts. You speak the language without trying. The connections are already there. You're not hunting anyone. You're just making yourself findable to people who are already looking for exactly what you are. Shift 5, marketing as broadcast into marketing as honest education. Let me read you something. Not an actual email. You already know what I'm talking about, and I don't need to embarrass anyone specifically. But we've all got these emails in our boxes. It goes something like this. This is your last chance. The doors are closing tonight. I've worked with thousands of people, and I know that the only thing standing between you and the life you want is this one decision. Don't let fear stop you. Don't be the person who always almost does the thing. You know who you are. The people who succeed are the ones who say yes when it matters. The offer expires in, and then there's a countdown timer. How do you feel when you read that? Physically. Something goes cold. Something in you pulls back. And if you've ever said that to anyone in the personal development world, you've probably been told that what you're feeling is resistance. Or maybe you're actually not coachable. That resistance means you're playing small. That discomfort is exactly where the growth is. I want to be precise about the word resistant because it matters. Resistance is the word the guru cult uses to mean you're being bad. You're not cooperating fully. Something is wrong with your willingness. It's borrowed directly from high control group dynamics. It's designed to override your own judgment by reframing accurate perception as a personal failing. Resistance isn't something Resistance is something in you correctly identifying that this is not the relationship. This is not the relationship you're into. This isn't even a relationship. This is pressure. That's not a flaw. That's your nervous system doing exactly what it's supposed to do. The tools of extractive marketing, false urgency, countdown timers, manufactured scarcity, pain point targeting, the carefully engineered sequence designed to move you from stranger to buyer before you have time to think, all of it is built on the same premise that your clients can't be trusted to make a real choice, that they need to be moved, that left to their own judgment, they'll choose wrong. So your job is to override that judgment as efficiently as possible. And then people wonder why their clients arrive already slightly unsettled. The paths that connect you to your people already exist, not a spiritual claim, a biological one. None of us is actually separate from the communities we're part of. Marketing is not building connections from nothing. It's making yourself findable along paths that are already there. That changes everything about what marketing is for. If you're not trying to move strangers to a purchase before they can think clearly, then marketing is something else entirely. It's education, honest education. You share what you know. You illuminate the problem clearly enough that the person can see it for themselves. You give them what they need to make a genuine choice, including the choice that you're not the right fit for them. That last part is important. Honest education makes it easy to say no, because a no from someone who is never your person is not a loss. It's a gift. It keeps both of you from a relationship that was never going to work. No one is loyal to a thing for very long. We're loyal to people we trust. And trust is not manufactured through smart copy or a well-timed sequence. It's earned through consistent, honest presence over time. That's the only kind that holds, and it's available to you right now in the communities where you already belong. Shift 6, sales as manipulative bullying versus a conversation among equals. Sales training in this industry is fundamentally the study of how to overcome objection. That's the phrase, overcome objection. When your potential client hesitates, that hesitation is an obstacle. When they say they need to think about it, that's resistance to be dissolved. When they say they can't afford it, that's a limiting belief you're there to change. The whole architecture is built on a single premise. The client's hesitation is wrong, and your job is to correct it. Your job is to override the judgment of the person in front of you. The techniques for doing this are sophisticated. You mirror their body language so they feel unconsciously understood. You use their own words back to them. You create a sense of intimacy that hasn't been earned. You manufacture urgency. This price is only available today. I only have 2 spots left. So they make a decision before their own thinking has had time to catch up with them. And it works. That's the honest and uncomfortable thing. It works often enough that people keep teaching it and people keep learning it. But here's what you bought when you closed that sale. A client who made a decision while their judgment was being overridden. Some part of them knows it. Maybe they can't name it, but it sits there underneath everything like a splinter. It makes genuine trust almost impossible to build because the relationship started with you demonstrating, however subtly, that you didn't trust them to choose well on their own. That's not the foundation you want. A sales conversation is the first conversation of the working relationship. How you conduct it is already showing the other person how you work and who you are. If you educate in that conversation, if you share what you actually know about what you do and what it can do and can't do, if you help the person see what they already understand about what they need, if you make it genuinely easy to say no, then the person who says yes arrives already knowing what working with you feels like. They make a real choice. That choice belongs to them. And because it belongs to them, they'll trust it. There is nothing wrong by the way, with selling something to someone when it will genuinely help their life? Nothing. The question is not whether to sell, it's whether you're leaving the person in front of you more capable of deciding or less. A conversation among equals means you don't need them to say yes more than they need to make a good decision. The moment your need for the sale becomes greater than their need for the right answer, you've left the conversation. You're no longer with them, you're working them. Stay in the conversation. Ask real questions. Tell the truth about what you offer, including its limits. Trust that the people who are right for your work will recognize it, and the ones who aren't are doing you a favor by saying so. That's a sales conversation. Everything else is just pressure with a better vocabulary. And finally, our last shift. The judgment upon you that the model doesn't fit you versus you don't fit the model. What I mean by that is it's not, in the traditional way of thinking about this, it's all your fault if things don't work versus the fault of the model. So most business tools were built for a specific kind of mind, a mind that moves in straight lines, that sequences naturally, that's motivated by obligation and consequence, that holds a plan across time and executes it step by step without losing the thread. And that describes some people. It does not describe everyone. There is a significant part of the population, entrepreneurs, founders, creatives, thought leaders, in a number that would genuinely surprise you, whose minds work differently, who think in patterns and constellations rather than steps, who are activated by interest and novelty rather than obligation, who see 5 implications where others see 1, who lose the thread of a linear plan, not because they're undisciplined, but because their brain is doing something else entirely. Something more, not less. For those people, the standard tools aren't just ineffective. They actively work against how the brain operates. They require spending enormous energy trying to function in a mode that isn't natural, energy that could be going into the actual work. And when that happens, the industry has one explanation. You need more discipline, more accountability. You're making it too complicated. You're resistant. There is no amount of discipline that will solve for a neurodivergent brain that needs another path. There is no amount of discipline that will solve for a human who believes that business should be done in the forest of humans rather than in an extractive nature. The model is broken, not you. I want to repeat that, and I want you to hear it. The model is broken, not you. The model is broken, not you. What you actually need is not more willpower applied to a framework that doesn't fit. It's a framework built for how you actually work. One that starts with your brain, your nervous system, your life, your way of moving through the world, and builds from there. One that treats your particular way of thinking not as a liability to be managed, but as the actual material you're building with. That framework exists. I've been building it in one form or another for over 20 years. So that's the map. 7 places where the business world hands you a tool that was built on the wrong idea of what a human being is. And 7 places where the honest version exists and works and doesn't require you to become someone you're not. Sufficiency instead of a finish line that keeps moving. Purpose that is your voice in a chorus rather than a possession you have to excavate and protect. A brand that's alive because it's honest rather than frozen in a performance. A community of kin you already belong to rather than a market segment you're trying to intercept. Marketing that educates and trusts rather than pressures and manipulates. Sales conversations that leave both people more capable of deciding, and a framework actually built for your brain rather than someone else's. None of this is theoretical for me. I've lived on the wrong side of every one of these 7 things, and I know what it costs. I know what it feels like to try to make tools work that were never built for you, and to conclude from that failure that something is wrong for you. Something is wrong with you. And I know what it feels like when you finally stop doing that. This is the invitation of the podcast, of the work I do, and of the movement that is growing, I believe, across the planet for more ethical, regenerative, green businesses. I'll be teaching a class this summer, as I mentioned earlier, called Doing Business in the Forest of Humans. And this material is exactly what I'll be teaching in a very intimate setting. If it's something that appeals to you, please check out the show notes or check out um, the link below to be able to see what this work is all about. I'd love to have you in the program, but if it's not the right thing for you, all good. What I'd love for you even more is to pick up the mantle of freedom, of liberation, to be a person who builds a business that fits who you are and the way that you want to live in the world, that is grounded in community and that holds us all together as we make things better for all of us. I'm so glad you're here. I'll look forward to seeing you on more episodes. I hope you'll leave comments and questions below. And until then, I'll see you in the forest.